Okay, this is the beginning of the closed session for January 26th. My name is Len Welch, I'm the board president. And at this time we'll take roll call. Director Cordova?
Here.
Director Toombs?
Present.
Director Sheriff Watt?
Here.
Director Gillette?
Here.
And full board present. I wanted to ask that we take comments on the first item of the agenda first. Go into closed session on that and then come back and take any other comments folks have, only because we have limited time with our attorney who's going to be phoning in on that MOU item. So does anybody,
I object to this.
would anybody like to comment?
Oh, yeah, I would like to comment. Is there a time limit for comments?
Your name, please.
My name is John Gutschel.
Generally 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. Now, I really don't want to restrict myself to any of the agenda items because I think I just don't want to do that. I want to comment broadly because this special meeting.
We just have two folks, let's go ahead and do it.
Pardon? Yeah. come on.
It's just that John's not going to be available later, but we'll do what we can do.
So the special meeting, and why is this special? It seems extremely odd. This special meeting doesn't speak very well for the board. It seems like it's another issue where there's a crisis created by inability to do something, and we get back into what we're seeing there. Here's a meeting, 10:30. About 2 people, there's more board members than people, and we're asked to do public comments. So it's very annoying to get into these things. I'm here speaking, and this is quite interesting. I get to actually look at all the board members and speak to you directly and say, I don't really understand what's going on. It doesn't seem like, and I might be wrong, and I might be speaking for myself, but it doesn't seem like it's being administered in an effective way. We have things happening that just should not happen. You are the board of directors for this district, so it comes on you to be actually doing this, and I don't see it happening. Having a meeting 10:30 Tuesday, all right, maybe we got 72 hours, maybe we got 24 hours notice. It's kind of, I've written before that some of these meetings come off, in my particular sense of humor, as a farce, because you have the meeting, but nothing gets done. Here, because nothing gets done, we're forced to come and attend a special meeting. And I'm going to say it, people have been telling you, listen, pay attention, the contract for Mr. Hart is coming up, you need to do something. They've been telling you that for a while. These are residents who've been telling you that. You should know that, I'm sure you know that, but why it doesn't get done, I don't know. So now, that's one of the things. I've got a long laundry list of things that seem to go on, never get resolved. You couldn't run a business like this. You couldn't run a business on such short notice, such a kind of a short horizon about what's happening. It seems like it's maybe, your view is maybe no longer than maybe 2 years down the road. You got to look longer. You got to plan out. You actually have to kind of have a plan and look beyond the horizon. There's something about this meeting. You've all seen the sign, plan ahead, and the ahead doesn't fit. This meeting kind of is like that. We have to have a special meeting, so let's have a special meeting. But let's go on to something else. You're talking about Mr.
I
Hart.
think we're getting close to 5 minutes.
Okay, then let me finish. We're talking about Mr. Hart. I don't understand the whole Berkeley incident with Mr. Hart. Why? Think of it, I can't get the coincidence of the guy who's negotiating the MOU turns up in Berkeley. He's the same guy who was involved in Reno and now is involved with one of our directors. I don't understand. You again are the directors. So it falls on you to actually make some sense of that. I know you can't speak of it. I know it's a legal case. But to residents, what do you think we make of that? It doesn't speak of good management. Do I have more time? I can
You're done.
continue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go back. Why are we proposing?
We're gonna take some of my time.
You
No,
have time?
no, I'm not gonna permit that.
Huh?
You can speak for yourself.
2
He's
minutes
done.
of my time.
No, there's no provision for that.
Why not?
Because we're not gonna allow it, there's no provision for that. You can get up and
Okay.
say what you have to say.
I will speak for myself.
Before you do, Mr. Gutierrez, can I get more clarification as to why suddenly, at this meeting, you are not accepting public comment at the floor and instead want to go item by item? Can you help me
I
understand?
thought I explained that, Vanessa. We had limited time with John, so we wanted to have comment on the MOU first, go in a closed session on that while he's available, John Holtzman, the attorney, then come back out and get the rest of public comment on the other stuff as to which there is no time.
So the residents have to sit
So
here.
Vanessa, it's not an issue, because I think we decided.
I
to go
wanted
ahead
a
and take it.
clarification though, and I recognize that.
Okay, we just got the clarification.
Well, it seems that the procedure, my name's Andrew Gutierrez, well, the procedures appear to be made on the fly. For the sake of courtesy, I will accept them. I think that, as has been said, having this meeting on such short notice does a disservice to you and to the community. To have a discussion about evaluation and positions and MOUs for the police, when a process is in progress to identify where we should go next, I think is premature. The review of the data, financial data, which was presented last Saturday, was at best misleading and designed to make the police expenditures appear to be much better than they are. I questioned the person who presented that information, and I pointed this out, that if you want to know what we should do, you first outline where you are, and then if you want to deconstruct, then you can go backwards and say where we got to where we are. That sets a good basis for going forward. To have this evaluation this morning is ill-advised. I, for one, have not been well served by this police department. And as I've said on several occasions, to have the GM and the COP be the same person would require somebody who is a saint. Mr. Hart, when I raised this issue, said that he was not a saint. And therefore, I would conclude that it will always be problematic. This joint position will always be problematic. Question was raised on Saturday concerning the Sheriff's Department about high turnover rates. This department has had high turnover rates, has been fraught with controversy, has had lawsuits, has had all kinds of things unbecoming a police department, public service. The notion that the police department and the fire department should be merged into one, in the simplest terms, is an idiot idea. You don't put a good organization in and blend it with a bad organization and expect something reasonable to come out.
Can I ask you to
Let
stick
the-
to the
let
topics
the-
on the agenda for today,
Let the
please?
police department determine that they are competent, capable, and that they should be merged, not to consider it prematurely. So I think this meeting has been said, to have it on this, what appears to be an impromptu basis, is ill-advised. And it does a disservice to all of us. Thank you.
I apologize for appearing late. Just very briefly, am I limited to speaking only on
No, anything on the agenda?
anything on the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm confused, but just now, did you say the comments were limited to the labor negotiator or to?
I started out that way, but since there's so few people here, just let them comment on the thing.
I'm addressing solely the performance evaluation. And what I'm going to say is not going to be so pleasant. So I want to point out, first of all, that in my opinion, Mr. Hart has not satisfied, that there are a number of things that I hope that you will all take into account when you do his evaluation. In my opinion, it was a failure on the part of Kevin Hart not to use the term interim from the very beginning. I understand that you're smiling at this and it may be trivial to you. It demonstrates a lack of professionalism, and it's professionalism in all fields. I think that it was a failure on Mr. Hart's part not to get the watch commander's reports consistently correct. I've asked for that for a number of months. He initially said it was good that I noticed this, that he would correct it, that the officers did not have adequate time to prepare the reports, and still they're not here. And please note that. I think that it was a mistake on Mr. Hart's part not to be willing to pay for his own medical expenses. He was hired with the knowledge that he did not, or the expectation to the board was that he would not need medical coverage. And that amounted to something like $17,000 a year. And it was a great benefit to hiring him because it saved the district money. And then before he was willing to sign the contract, his employment agreement, he turned around and said that he needed medical coverage. I just want to make it clear that Mr. Hart did have medical coverage under his retirement benefits from Alameda County. I think that the benefits that he got from Kensington were more generous for him, and that's why he balked. But please note that to me that is turning things around at the very last moment. I also say that as an interim chief of police, Mr. Hart hired Armanino after Turner left. Now, it's been pointed out by me and other people that once Huey was brought back full-time, we had one extra person here full-time. We had Barrow here 1 to 2 days a week once Westnet was disbanded, and that was at the end of May or at the end of June. So we had effectively 1.5 extra people here to work with. It seems odd to me that he would hire Armanino, and that then becomes the burden of the district. This has nothing to say with Armanino and his quality as an officer. He's a very nice young man. It also seems odd to me that his field training officer would be Ramos, somebody who has had numerous encounters with people in the district, and he has certainly not been an exemplary officer. We need a sound system. We need an adequate sound system. This has been going on for years. I wonder why it was that Mr. Hart put in for a new car when we really needed that money to be spent on an adequate sound system.
Would you please finish up? You got about 30 seconds.
Was that including my apology for being late? I didn't start it. He actually started talking.
Now you gained 10 seconds.
10 seconds? Thank
You
you.
have an additional 10.
Thank you. I notice that I am not alone in complaining that Mr. Hart does not respond in a timely way to PRA requests and also even to my request for information about the Hertz rental car. He has taken an excessive amount of time for meetings and training, away from Kensington when he really needs to be here. He has failed to acknowledge that his officers harass people. I have asked him personally, when I'm not at the mic, why his officers are harassing people, and his comment has been, my officers do not harass people. Now, I would ask you to think about whether or not Vanessa was harassed when she was pulled over in Berkeley. May I make one last comment, and then I'm done? I think that as a board, it is incumbent on you to think about the person that we have hired as a general manager, chief of police. That, in fact, it seems to me that what we have done is employed primarily a chief of police. We have provided, and that as an ancillary, he is a general manager. And I believe that it is time that we have a general manager and that the chief of police respond to or be accountable to a general manager who has different goals, and those goals are to keep our budget tight.
Thank you for your comment.
See, here.
All right, I am now going to call on close.
I'm going to interrupt. So,
Go ahead and interrupt.
there has been too much procedural maneuvering associated with this meeting. Whether or not that's by design, I don't know. I do know I'm particularly uncomfortable with item C. I think even the appearance that, and also the public acknowledgement by staff that this item is about something else related to the contract, just leaves a bad taste in the mouth of folks. And I'm not willing to participate in item C, and I strongly encourage you, President Welch, to consider moving that item to a date certain to ensure there is maximum public participation and comment at a time that is more conducive to the lives of our busy residents.
You have a comment?
As well, yes. I spoke with John Holtzman this morning and told him that I would not be able to participate in items C and D today because unfortunately there was a lot of kerfuffle, and I think that it would be better, those items were not part of my understanding of today's initial discussion, but so I will not participate in C and D, and Mr. Holtzman knows that, so I'm sorry, I need to inform you here, but.
No, that's pretty short.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm sorry, these items have been commingled and then split apart. I am referencing D as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask a question since Randy's here? Would you tell us why the agenda changed and what the thinking was? I mean, I think we need to have a baseline.
Yeah, so let me just start with what's going to be discussed in closed session today and what's not, which is what was intended. What is not going to be discussed, but what will be discussed is the evaluation of the interim general manager, a threshold decision of whether the board wants to put on the open agenda for February the extension of Mr. Hart's contract, and then if so, direction to me presumably to prepare the appropriate agenda materials. What is not on the agenda for a closed session, what will not happen in closed session, is any discussion of whether to approve or not approve the contract. That's going to be on for the February meeting, where the public will have a chance to comment, and before any decision is actually made on the merits of extending the contract or not extending the contract. This is the same approach we took when the contract was initially approved. We had a special session, of which there were closed sessions on, I guess it's C and D, I don't have the agenda in front of me, but instructing labor negotiator about unrepresented employee and appointment of public employment appointments. Those are the same two items we had on when we initially considered approving a contract for Mr. Hart. And then at the open session in June, that was in May. In June, we had the actual open session at which members of the public spoke before the contract was discussed and decided upon by the board. That's the same practice we're following today. The Brown Act has limited exceptions for what can be discussed in closed session, but with respect to employees, it's hiring, appointing, terminating, performance evaluation, and also instruction to labor negotiators about contracting, about the terms and conditions of employment for represented and unrepresented employees. So again, we're taking the same approach this time that we took when the contract was initially proposed. I included all three items out of an abundance of caution to make sure the Brown Act was complied with, not to try to get around the Brown Act in any way. I've done this for 30 years. I've done multiple trainings of the Brown Act, including last Friday for the League of Cities. I drafted the San Francisco Sunshine Ordinance. I get it. I'd like to think I understand how the Brown Act works, and this agenda was prepared in compliance with the Brown Act, and I will ensure that the closed session is conducted in compliance with the Brown Act.
And my lack of participation on C and D, I want to say, is in no way a comment on the professionalism and the esteem to which I hold Mr. Riddle and Mr. Holtzman. So that is not, so please understand.
So let me just cut to the chase here. We're not going to decide to extend any contract at this closed session at all. That's not on the discussion. Is that clear? Am I right in saying that?
Yes, you're going to evaluate them and then decide whether or not you want to put on the open session in February is contract extension,
So
which will be decided in
February 13th, whatever the next meeting is, thank you. That will be a full discussion of any decision on extending his contract, not today. I just want to make sure I'm clear here.
That's correct.
February 11th, whatever it is. Check your calendars, guys, come on. And the other thing I want to say is, the other reason we're meeting today is because no one can meet during any night between the last meeting and the next one. We told every member here, trying to find a suitable time. This was it. There was no other evening we could meet. And everybody here knows that. So I'm just surprised to see that this is somehow pulled out of the hat as some attempt to pull the carpet out from anybody. It's not. Let me finish, please. This was the
That's a
time we were going to meet.
misrepresentation.
The board by consensus pulled this meeting. You were going to be out of town participating by phone.
Are you
I'm glad to
discussing
see
what was
you here.
discussed in closed session?
I'm
Because it
simply
sounds like
telling
you are.
I'm telling you folks, this was a meeting we scheduled by consensus.
For one item, not C and D.
C and D are not going to have any substantive effect except to say you want to put this on the meeting for the next public hearing.
And this is total formal responsibility. I mean, you guys want to take a stand and make it appear that you're somehow taking some laudable position on behalf of the community. You all know exactly what we're going to be discussing in this meeting. Nothing has changed. And to your comment, excuse me, Vanessa, no one interrupted you when you were speaking. With respect to your comment, John, I understand your frustration. Mr. Hart's contract expires at the end of March. And so what we're doing is, unfortunately, because we're so constrained by the law in terms of how we can talk about these items, we have to get his evaluation done, and then we have to set an open session where we can discuss his contract, and then probably another meeting in March where we actually accept the contract. So we're constrained by what we can do. We can't operate like a normal organization, in my opinion, because of the constraints put in by the Brown Act. We have a lawyer who advises us, who's actually highly qualified on what we can and can't do, and we're trying to do the best we can. We're a volunteer board. It's not exactly convenient for me to be here at 10:30 in the morning either. I've got a job. Everyone on this board has a job. So it is difficult, but we did want to make sure we got this done before the next meeting occurred, so that we could then put on the agenda for the open meeting a discussion of whether to extend the contract and accept all the public comments at that time. So I appreciate your concerns, and I do appreciate your comments. We're not having a discussion.
No, it's not a discussion. Just tell me how long it will be. Can you estimate how long it will be before you come out of closed session and whether or not you'll report anything? I don't have a car here and I just need to know what to do.
I think the only thing that's going to be reported out of closed session is that we did an evaluation of Mr. Hart, if we in fact are accomplished that we did or didn't do an evaluation of him, and that's not for public consumption. And two, that we either are or are not going to put his extension of contract on the agenda. Am I right, Randy? That's it. And how long will it take? I have a 12:30 stop. I've got to call with the judge, so I've got to leave by 12:25.
We can get the results out on the website pretty quickly, can't we, Kevin?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go into closed session.
Would you like us to leave?
Yes,